See what the legendary author Michael Lewis, and this is where we begin, what he is now saying about Sam Bankman-Fried, the former head of the cryptocurrency exchange FTX, whose trial starts tomorrow. Watch here.
Sam's thinking we could pay Donald Trump not to run for president. Like, how much would it take? The number was kicking around when I was talking to Sam about this was $5 billion. Sam was not sure that number came directly from Trump.
All right, so the claim there is that SBF, the head of FTX, was talking about this idea of throwing around $5 billion to Donald Trump to get him not to run. Seems preposterous.
I'll not run for president for half that much.
We got a Powerball.
I'm here to tell you right now, I will take my name out of the running for half that amount of money. You know, Sam Bankman-Fried is a story of how gullible politicians are.
Yeah.
The thirst, the desire for access to rich people and money and all of that stuff. Sam Bankman-Fried is an obvious goofus. You can see that he is this is a total emperor has no clothes situation, but politicians tripped over themselves to suck up to this goofus.
Here's what I found interesting. So Michael Lewis, of course, famous author, book comes out tomorrow on SBF. And Sam Bankman-Fried, according to Michael Lewis, was making the point, hey, look, the government spends about $15 trillion over the course of 4 years. During that same time, politicians were given about $6.5 billion. Just a percentage of a percentage. And here's what Michael Lewis writes, quote, what surprised Sam once he himself had unlimited sums of money was how slowly rich people and corporations had adapted to their new political environment. It just seems like there isn't enough money in politics, said Sam. People are underdoing it. The weird thing is that Warren Buffett isn't giving $2 billion a year. Mark, we talk about this idea that there is too much money in politics. SBF, who was worth billions on billions, was saying, look at the percentage. There's not enough.
I mean, when you think about it, I mean, going back in the 2020 campaign where I was director of strategic communication for Trump, we spent about $1 billion.
Okay.
Now, think about Warren Buffett, like throwing $2 billion per year into the system. I mean, it's scary, I think, what would happen with politicians with that much money. Although I'm sure some of my friends in fundraising would be happy to take it.
Julia, you saw that and you just did an eyebrow raise.
No, definitely. I mean, we live in an age where there's so much stigma around money in politics. You have candidates essentially saying, I don't want money from billionaires and millionaires. There's a stigma against this. But then you have Sam Bankman-Fried sort of saying the quiet part out loud and, you know, touching on that.
He misunderstands, and I think the public does sometimes, what money in politics really means. There are contributions made to candidates that are hard money contributions with a limit of $3,300. Act Blue donations, small other stuff around the country. That's great. That's people in the system. But what he's exposing and what the author's exposing in this piece about him is how much money they're able to move outside the process through parents, family, friends, billions already in the system we have today.
I agree with what Sam Bankman-Fried is saying, which is we talk a lot about the money in politics. We spend a lot more money on potato chips or online sports betting. I mean, the number of things that we spend extraordinary sums of money on. The place where he's wrong. If money made the difference, Ron DeSantis would be leading the Republican presidential nominating contest. Jeb Bush would have won the Republican nomination. Hillary Clinton would have been president. Money, if you don't have enough money, you can't win because you can't organize, you can't do the other things. More money does not buy better results. Donald Trump had no money, essentially, in 2016. He won. In 2020, he had all the money he could have wanted, and he lost.
It just makes you think, it's a great point, but it also just makes you think there will be more billionaires who want to get into politics and influence. And if some think like Sam Bankman-Fried think, you just got to wonder, potentially down the road, what might happen to one or two of them. Anyway.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.